So hi Julie.
Hello.
It's your first time visiting our country?
Yes.
Yes, so what does it smell and taste like for you?
It smells and tastes wonderful. Our hotel is just around the corner, and when you walk out you can smell ginger, because there's a gingerbread shop just down the street. Yeah, gingerbread and cinnamon. But every time you go to a new country, that's one of the first things that I notice, is that it smells different to home. And it's always really exciting. You walk out from the hotel or the Airbnb and you just smell the street, and it's like, I'm away somewhere and it's all there for me to explore.
It's nice. So ginger, we are ginger. Czech Republic is ginger. And did you have any Czech food yet?
Yes. Oh, my publisher organised a Taste of Prague tour. So it was 4 hours yesterday with the most amazing girl who was so knowledgeable about food and history. And we went to 4 different places around Prague. I won't be able to remember them all, but the first was a local, and I had Milko beer, which I've never seen before.
No?
And it was really good. And I also had carp, which I wasn't sure I'd like, but I did. It was delicious.
Good.
And Prague ham. And then we went to another place, and I had some Moravian wine, which was delicious. And we also had, I think my favourite was the dumplings.
Okay.
And also the beef in root vegetable sauce, which was delicious. And then we went to another place where they did amazing coffee. It was a roastery, and they had amazing puddings.
Puddings?
And then we went to a new cocktail bar, which I can remember the name of, called Liquid Gold. And we had a traditional Czech cocktail, and I can't remember what it was called, but it tasted of Christmas. It was amazing.
Traditional cocktail, I don't know.
Oh, I feel bad now. I can't remember what it was called, but it was absolutely delicious. It had Brekova in, which is a bitters, egg whites, and lemon and spices.
Was it tasty for you?
It was delicious.
Perfect. And with what or whom do you associate the Czech Republic with?
This is really interesting. So when I was a child, Czech cartoons were really big in the UK. And I remember the cartoon about a mole.
Really? Do you know?
I know about the mole.
Perfect.
And I had forgotten all about it until we walked past a window the other day and they had some puppets in there. I said, oh, can you tell me about the puppets? And Petra, the lady from the publisher, said, oh, this is the 3 people. It's an uncle and nephew and his friend with the red hair. Yes. Yeah. And I didn't know who they were, and they were so cute. And then in the corner of the window was a mole. And she said, and this is a mole. And I went, oh, I remember the Czech. So for me, Czech, I'm going to associate with a mole.
It's perfect. And any writers is part of your association?
So there's a book here that I've been told I must read.
Okay.
So I'm going to get a copy of that when I get home. Perfect. So I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know very much about Czech culture, or I didn't until this week. And it's really opened my eyes, so I'm going to do some more research.
Perfect. And you always wanted to become a writer, but I read it wasn't easy. So could you describe your journey? How you become a bestseller?
So when I was about 10, I said, oh, I'm going to be a writer one day. And then life got in the way. And also, I didn't know anyone who was a writer. And I thought only special people became writers, not ordinary people. So it's a long story, but basically I had some time off work and I thought, I'm going to sit down and write my book. So I wrote the first 3 chapters and they were brilliant. The best 3 chapters ever. And I sent them to my father, who's a TV director and he writes scripts and things. And I said, what do you think, Dad? And he went, it's rubbish. But it was the best thing he could possibly have said because it made me go back and learn my craft and learn how to write properly, because a book has a structure. Every play, film, theatre piece has that 3-act structure, and I needed to learn the techniques of writing and the craft of writing. So I did an evening course and learnt about putting a book together, because every scene in a book needs to move the story on. Every character in the book needs to have a purpose. So there's no point writing a wonderful wedding scene with lots of lovely people in that are all talking and interesting characters if they don't really have a place in the plot.
Yeah.
So that was a really big lesson to learn. So I wrote the first book and I sent it off to agents, because in England you need an agent before you can get to a publisher.
Yeah, I read it. So you have to have your own
literary agent. It's less necessary now. There are some publishers you can go to direct, but for the main ones, you have to have a literary agent. So I wrote my first book. I wrote to lots of literary agents. They all said no. And I could wallpaper my house in rejection letters. So I carried on writing. So I wrote another book and more rejections. So I wrote another one. And I wrote 5.
5 books.
5 books. And in the meantime, I'd been networking with, we have an organisation called the Romantic Novelists Association in England. And I'd been networking with them and meeting other authors and getting to know people. And I heard about this small independent publisher called Chocolate. So I submitted to them and they accepted my very first book. By this time I'd rewritten it several times. In the meantime, I'd written my 5th book and I'd been sending that one out. And my agent now, I always tease her, I was stalking her. I kept sending her every book, I would send it to her because I was determined to get her.
Of course.
And I never heard from her. So I thought, one last chance, I'm going to send this book to five more people. And 3 came back after all this time. And one of them said, I'd like to read it, but on an exclusive basis, so no one else can read it while I'm reading it. So I sent it to her. In the meantime, my agent that I wanted came back and said, I'm sorry I've not been in touch. I've got various reasons. I'd really like to read this book. I was like, I don't know what to do, because I've said yes to this other lady. And if I say to my agent, you can't read it yet, but you can read it when they've finished, she might not want it because the other lady didn't want it, and I had no idea what to do. But luckily, because I was a member of this Romantic Novelists Association, they have a party every year in November, and it's agents and writers and publishers go. So I went to the party, and the agent who was reading my book was there, but also my current agent was there. And so I went up and introduced myself and said, I don't know what to do because the other lady's got the book on the exclusive. I said, oh, it's fine, I'll wait. But we got on so well. So when the other lady said, I'd like to take you on, these are the changes. But Brew then read it and I just got on so well with her that I went with her. And she then got my first deal with that 5th book, which is with Harper Impulse, then they're now called One More Chapter, and I've been with them ever since, and I've had the same editor the whole way through, and we work really well together, and I think I've now written 21 books.
21?
Yeah.
That's nice. It's a good story, it's like a book.
It's like a book, yes, but I would say it wasn't an overnight success, because in those early days I had a full-time job, so and 2 small children, so I was writing in the evenings when everyone else had gone to bed, and then in the morning going to work, and then getting the rejection. So it wasn't easy, but I just kept going. I think I was, in England we call it pig-headed, so when someone said no, it's like, I'll prove them wrong.
That's nice. Why have you decided to write romantic books? Because I've read that you love detective stories.
I do, but I also like books with a happy ending. And so I studied English at university and the birth of the novel. And my first love was always Jane Austen.
Jane Austen.
Jane Austen. Especially, so everyone says their favourite is Pride and Prejudice, which is my number 2 favourite. But Persuasion is my absolute favourite.
Okay.
And those books just inspired me, and romance is all I ever wanted to write.
Do you believe in happy endings?
I do.
That's great. Your series is called Romantic Escapes.
Yes.
So how did you, do you have ever experienced your own romantic escape?
Yes, lots.
Lots.
So in England, a romantic escape is actually a break away from everything. So you say you go to Paris for a weekend for a romantic escape.
Okay.
Okay. So my husband and I like to travel, so we've had lots of romantic escapes. But the idea for the book was born from a TV series. I don't know if he's a TV chef, and he would go to a city for a weekend and discover all the gastronomy and the food.
Okay.
And my editor had watched this and she said, oh, I'd really like a book like that. And I said, I could write that.
It's your books.
So it's my books, yeah. So
it's nice. How was pandemic for you? Because you loved traveling and it wasn't possible to travel. I know pandemic is still here, but...
Yes, so I'm one of the really lucky people, and I know I'm lucky. It was hard, the writing, because a writer needs inspiration and to meet other people.
Yeah.
So being just very confined was quite difficult. But I have two children. One of them was at university and the other one had left home for the first time.
Oh.
And they both came back to live with us. And so the weather was like this. It was glorious. And I remember thinking, this is the last time as a family we will all be together this much. So we really made a big effort to do things together. So we'd cook a meal together, we'd play board games together, we'd have cocktail nights, we'd choose a film to watch together. So we really tried to make the most of that family time, because we will never get it back again. But I know that we were really lucky because we have a house with a garden.
Yeah.
And lots of families were stuck in flats with no way out, and we all get on well. But I can't imagine what it would have been like if you were stuck with someone in a relationship and stuck in a house with no access to a garden. It must have been awful. So I do count myself as incredibly lucky.
So it was family emotional traveling for you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very nice. And you are in Prague now, and I'm sure our readers hope that you will visit our country in your next book, of course. So just, you don't have to say you will, but what does a country have to trigger or awake in you that it inspires you to write about it?
Okay, I wasn't going to write a book set in Prague. My next book is set in France. Well, the next one published in Prague is set in Scotland, and that's written, so it's coming out in November.
Yeah.
The one after that is planned to be in France, and the one after that was planned to be in Stockholm or Sweden.
Okay.
And then yesterday, after the food tour, I was so inspired by the food.
Perfect.
And the welcome that I've received, and by all the Czech readers who've contacted me on Instagram. I actually had an Instagram post, I said, where to next? And all the Czech readers said Prague, which I hadn't really considered, because I thought, do you really want to read about your own country?
Yeah.
But apparently they do, which is fantastic. So we emailed my editor in London, because I have a contract to write the book set in Sweden.
Okay.
And I emailed her and said, what do you think about changing it to Prague? And she came back and said, let's do it.
Really?
So not the next two books, but the one after that will definitely be in Prague.
So Prague inspires you?
It did. What's not to like? I mean, the buildings, the atmosphere and the food. I didn't think the food would be quite what it is. I was really, really surprised and really impressed. So.
And it's a romantic city for you?
It certainly is. Gorgeous buildings. The views are astonishing. So yeah, I absolutely love it.
So thank you. So we are very happy.
Everybody's happy, I think.
Julie, who is behind the name Jules Wake?
That's my real name.
And who is it? It's romantic writer or not?
It's still a romantic writer, but it's more family, more themes, and more experimental. So each one is different. You're never the same. With Julie Caplin, you know that it's about food, it's about travel, it's about romance, it's also about friendships. There's more than one, there's not just the couple, there is a wide family involved as well. Whereas Jules Wake is very much about the romance and the two main characters.
Yeah. And who is sitting there?
I don't know. My husband likes to say he's sleeping with 2 women.
Okay, so two women
Yeah.
are there. Okay, perfect. To what extent are your books personal? Are you writing about real people that you met?
No, they're all very much made up. There might be little components of some people, and maybe Copenhagen is a little bit semi-autobiographical, because I worked in PR for many years, and like Kate, I took press trips abroad, and so the idea of the trip and the journalist is very much based on what I had to do. So I think there's a little bit of me and Kate, but yeah, I got to go to some amazing places and take journalists. But the very first time I took a press trip, I think I was going to Amsterdam, and I lost a journalist in the airport before we'd even left.
Really?
Yeah. I found him on the plane.
Okay, you found it.
Yeah, but it was a real heart-stopping, oh, I've lost a journalist, we haven't even left the country.
Okay, and I have just the last question for you. Which book are you currently falling asleep with?
Oh.
Or books?
It's coming to Prague. I think it's already in the Prague bestseller list under English language, and it's called The Love Hypothesis by Ali, and I can't remember her surname, but it's a fabulous book.
Yeah?
Yeah, so that's mine.
So it's romantic again.
Of course. But it's a science. So she's a scientist, and it's all about the science of falling in love.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
It's possible
really
to
good.
fall in love with science.
Yeah.
So Julie, thank you so much for
It's a
all your
pleasure.
books, and very nice it was to speak with you. Thank you.